Good day, everyone. We are the Group 9. I am Crisette May Bigalia, and they are my group members, Miss Dimpna May Baybay and Sir Anthony Obas. So, for our topic for today is Taking Charge of One's Health, Chapter 14. So, for our learning outcomes, at the end of the chapter, you should be able to explain the concept of stress, discuss the dimensions of stress, explain how stress affects health, identify strategies to control stress, and develop your own self-care plan. So, according to Carl Jung, man needs difficulties. They are necessary for health. Of course, every one of us should experience also difficulties. Not only happy lang or easy. Because difficulties it will help us gain courage, it will help us gain hope and also confidence. For example, gusto nimo mag-diet. So before nimo ma-aim ang imong gusto na weight, kailangan sa jud nimo manglisod to achieve. Like guys, for example, di ba pag mag-diet ka, kailangan gid nimo magbawas og kaon. Kailangan nimo mag-iwas sa mga bawal. So, that's example of kalisod. Lisod kaya mag-iwas sa mga bawal. Labang na gusto gid nimo to siya. So next is stress has ill effects on health. People sometimes use unconscious strategies called defense mechanism in order to cope with stress. So later on, I will discuss what is stress and defense mechanism. Nonetheless, psychology suggests that people must learn positive ways to manage stress. Some suggestions to manage stress include social support, self-care, and compassion. So this chapter defines stress and presents the factors that cause stress. Theories that attempt to explain stress include Hans Selye's General Adaptation Syndrome and Richard Lazarus' cognitive theory of stress. So what is stress? It refers to events that are perceived as challenging, damaging, or threatening to one's physical or psychological well-being. So ang stress daw is the one who challenge us or damage or threaten our physical and psychological health. So the feeling of being overwhelmed, unable to cope with mental or emotional pressure. Kanang pressure ka, ibig sabihin, stress na ka. So that is stress. So these events are referred to as stressors, which is the causes of stress. And the way people respond to them is called stress response. For example, kanang increased blood pressure. Di ba kanang yung mga pag masuko, pag ma-stress, yayaw diri, yayaw dito. So something ana. So stress is experienced by all people but in different degrees, from mild to severe, depending on how people interpret the situation. So every day, people encounter stressors, and there are two types of stressors, the eustress and distress. So eustress occurs when people experience positive events but requires them to adjust. For example, kanang excitement of riding rolling coaster, watching horror movie, and first day at a new job. So syempre kanang mag-ride ka og roller coaster, di ba? Excited ka. Pero after syempre na ay times na magsuka-suka ka, malipong ka. So muna siya example sa requires them to adjust. So next is distress. Occurs when people experiencing negative events and make a great deal of demands on them. For example, you are being bullied or nag-break mo sa imong uyab or imong magpapa nag-aaway or even kanang namatayan ka og loved one. So ang distress is from the word negative events. So muna siya ang pangit na stress. Compared natin sa eustress, experience positive events. So next is stressors and response. Thomas Holmes and Richard Rahe suggest that any life event that requires people to change, adapt, or adjust would likely result in stress. So there are factors that cause stress. Major life events such as a wedding and having a baby may be a positive events but they demand a great deal of adjustment. So muna siyang other example sa eustress. All the more negative events such as losing one's job or death of a loved one cause a high level of stress. So another example of distress. So next is catastrophe. It is a one factor of stress. It creates a high level of stress. So natural disasters such as Typhoon Yolanda and Typhoon Ondoy are example of catastrophe. Another example is earthquake in province of Leyte. War in Marawi, eruption of Mayan volcano in Bicol. Yet, hassles that people experience daily such as difficulty in getting a ride to school. Syempre, late na gani ka tapos dugay pa ka makasakay. Kinsa ba naman dili ma-stress di ba? Next is irritation in traffic. One example pud na. And small disagreements with parents can also cause stress and could harm well-being, especially if such events continue and pile up. So another example is submission of school projects. This is a very common example na for us students. Bisag dugay nagihatag ang activity kay nagsige pa kag procrastinate na naabtan na kag deadline. So ibig nag-cram na ka, pressured na ka. So another is frustration. For instance, a student will feel frustrated if he or she fails a major examination. Major examination pa jud. Ako gani na quiz lang to na stress jud ko. Daw feel na ko ma-depress ko ato na time. Char. So next is another factor of stress. The conflict. It occurs when a person needs to choose between two or more options. Ibig sabihin, conflict ka nang nagalibog ka. Nagalibog ka kung sa imong pilion. Something ana. So there are 4 types of conflicts. The approach conflict, avoidance conflict, approach avoidance conflict, and the multiple conflict. So first is approach conflict. It occurs when a person needs to choose between two options that are both attractive. So for example is kunwari akong pinsan, gusto niya nakuha na course pag college is BS Bio. So nag-take siya og exam sa iba't iba na school and nadawat siya sa duha ka school. Bali napasado siya. So kailangan niya mamili kung asa niya gusto mag-eskwela katong sa duha ka school. So di ba? They are both positive. Ang option is both attractive. So next is avoidance conflict. Occurs when a person needs to choose between options that he or she finds both unpleasant. So for example, is ikaw nagatrabaho ka, so ang imong company is gipapili ka mag-stop na lang ka og trabaho or babaan ang imong sweldo. So di ba both siya na negative ang options. So next is approach avoidance conflict. Occurs when a person needs to choose between options that have both positive and negative consequences. So for example, gusto nimo magkaon og cake. So mo na siya ang positive. Pero dili mo gusto mag-gain og weight. So mo na siya ang negative. So next is multiple conflict. Occurs when there are more than two options. Example is choosing between two different cars, each with differing pros and cons. One car gets great gas, mileage, and has lots of fancy stuff. So, muna siyang approaching, but it is very expensive and expensive to maintain. So, muna siya ang avoidance. More lang gyapon siya og approach avoidance conflict, pero mas dagal na siya og options. So, students usually experience multiple conflict during examination period. In order to deal with frustrations, conflicts, and stress, people sometimes use unconscious strategies. So, muna na siya ang defense mechanism. So, defense mechanism to cope with the pain and deal with anxiety. Simply means panglaban sa stress. So, one example is beatnik reaction. So, beatnik reaction daw is a defense mechanism in which the persons exhibits behaviors that stand apart from the standards of society and avoid most responsibilities of a good citizen. It includes smoking, drug use, early sex, and dropping out of school. Di ba ang iba, gina-reason na lang na manigarilyo, magamit og drugs, mag-sex, and even mag-undang og eskwela kasi nang lisod na sila sa studies nila or financial problem. So anyone who is frustrated may also act aggressively, such as destroying things or harming another person. So mao na siyang ginatawag na displacement. Another example is compensation, in which a person makes up for or covers up his or her weak areas by being superior in other areas. So other examples of defense mechanism are denial. It occurs when a person refuses to accept a painful reality or truth. Kanang denial do na tao. Next is identification. Is imitating the characteristics of a person he or she admires to deal with his or insecurities. Next is intellectualization. It is avoiding negative emotions by focusing on the intellectual aspects of one's life. So next is projection. It is attributing one's own weakness or shortcomings to someone else. Rationalization is making up plausible explanations or excuses to cover up negative feelings such as guilt. Reaction formation is acting opposite to what the person truly feels. Regression. A person reverts to an earlier psychosexual stage, begins to behave like a child. Repression is a pushing unacceptable impulses or urges into the unconscious. And lastly is the suicide. Anyone who suffers from lots of frustrations may resort to hurting oneself or committing suicide. So, before ka ma-depress, ma-stress sa jud ka, like for example, wala na ka sa mga buhaton, hindi ka po naka sa all and all and all, wala na kay faith, wala na kay hope, to the point na sakpan na mo imong sarili, or even commit suicide. Pero wag tayo ganun, guys, laban lang tayo sa buhay.
The psychological and cognitive factors of stress. Hans Selye is a psychologist, which is also the one who developed the model of the general adaptation syndrome. This general adaptation syndrome was have the 3 stages. First, the alarm. Second, the resistance, and the third was the exhaustion. Let's talk first the first stages, the alarm. The alarm is the initial reaction to a stressful situation. In trying to cope with the initial effects of stress, the sympathetic nervous system is activated and release hormones such as cortisol, epinephrine, and norepinephrine that helps the body to fight off stress. However, the continued increase in the hormones could also adversely affect the body, such as increase in blood pressure, heart rate, in blood sugar. In a short explanation, the first stage was the stage which is the body is fighting in the way of excreting hormones to overcome the stress. But whenever the the hormones can control the stress, it produces too much hormones and it cause to have as such diseases or side effects. Second stages is the resistance stage. The body adapts to stress but continues to release hormones that help the body to adapt and fight off harmful effect of stress. The body can eventually suffer fatigue if stress continues. If the stress is not properly dealt with, the person will experience exhaustion. Short, the second stage is how long your body can fight off the stress and how long does the hormones will fight off the stress. And to the third stages was the exhaustion, which is the body was suffer in psychosomatic illnesses including colds, flu, allergies, headaches, muscle pain, as well as those that may have irreversible damage to one's health, such as heart disease, ulcer, diabetes, stroke, cancer, or death. Short, in the third stages, if your body fails to overcome the stress, and because of the hormones that excrete by your body, you can have all this illness and probably can cause death by a person. Richard Lazarus, a cognitive psychologist, and also developed a cognitive view of stress. And he had two step of appraisal. The first was the primary appraisal, which is the individual appraises the severity of stressor and classifies it is a threat, a challenge, or a harm or loss. If stressor seen a challenge, the individual may perceive it as a less stressful and more likely to cope well. However, if the stressor is seen as a threat, negative emotion may ensue. However, if the stressor is seen as a threat, negative emotion may ensue. More common emotional reaction to stress include anxiety, anger, and aggression, apathy, depression, and psychological impairment. Second appraisal involves people's evaluation of the resources and option for coping. One aspect of second appraisal is a person evaluation of who should be held accountable. A person can hold herself, another, or a group of other people accountable for the situation at hand. Stress in the Filipino. The socio-economic and cultural factors of stress. Another perspective in stress is the socio-cultural perspective. Here in the Philippines, in us, poverty was still the first critical problem that we all experience this time. Why? Because we are in poverty, we experiencing receiving low compensation means higher less and the reason that many things that we are think and many problems goes always in our mind that we can focus in our daily lives. Like what parents need to work to make ends meet. Also, as a parents, take on multiple roles, achieving balance between work and family becomes source stress. It's according to Ortega in Hachinova 2010. So, because as a parents, both of the parents working, they're working but they thinking of their children that they are live in the house if they are good or they're in bad situation, because they can focus to their work and it cause such stress to them. And also, whenever we had a good salary received in the work, there also a thing that we have to encounter. You had a good salary because first, you overtime. It provide us a big amount of money added to our regular salary. But we use our body much, and it caused that stress to us, and also a bunch of works that we needed to be finished in a certain of time. Another factor is the overcrowding and living in a poor housing condition. It's also a cause of stress because overcrowding give us many things always to think, because we need in overcrowding pollution is always occurs, therefore we need to clean our house. But whenever we clean our house, our surrounding is still so dirty, therefore you're thinking of your house and make it you stress also. Like I said, living in a poor housing condition also a problem because it give us such diseases that can trigger stress to that can give us stress and also give us such diseases. So in the Philippines, traffic and lack of transportation can always enormously stressful, in the way that traffic can delay your work, and you need to go in your work early, and sometimes some people got late, and because of that late that they have, they can focus to their work. And whenever you don't have transportation, you need to commute, and according to Gawait, here in the Philippines, that vehicle must be full before it goes. Another was the cultural perspective. In a cultural perspective, it means a person from one culture who must live in another culture may experience a great deal of stress, according to Sicarelli and White 2012. In here, we had acculturation. It means the process of the adaptation by which immigrants, native groups, and ethnic minority groups adjust to a new culture, making behavioral and attitudinal changes. And acculturative stress refers to the feelings of tensions and anxiety that accompany efforts to adapt to the orientation and values of dominant culture, by Nevid and Ratus 2003. Here on acculturation, we mentioned that adaptation by what person adjusts to a new culture, making behavioral changes. This was explained that how how come a person overcomes stress, and according him to adapt fully the the dominant culture that he need in such place. Culturative stress. This is the stress that a person needed to resolve. In as a Filipino, the greatest stress is when migrant Filipino or OFW was discriminated, and because of the racism, they make them so slowly to they these things makes them the OFW to slowly cope up with the stress that they have this in the and also stress that they have, that they miss their family in the Philippines.
Source of coping and strengths. One strategy by which people cope with stress is focusing on the problem in problem focused coping. The individual reduces the impact of the problem by looking for the best solution through his or her own effort. Another strategy that appeared to help the individual with cope with stressful situation is through emotion focused coping. The individual uses this strategy to reduce the intensity of negative emotion. Among the behavior of techniques that may be used to help people cope with stressful situation are biofeedback, relaxation technique, meditation, and physical exercise by Atkinson Smith, Bem, and Nolan Haxima 2000. So, biofeedback. Biofeedback is a technique from medical devices and programs that individuals can use to recognize and control the same stress, such as tension and headache. Relaxation technique, such as deep breathing, listening to music. Meditation and exercise. Those are aerobic, swimming, and jogging. It was done to help an individual cope with everyday stress and control stress related health problems such as heart disease, high blood pressure, and diabetes. Another strategy that appears to help people during a stressful situation is having a social support system or a network of family members and friends. Research has shown that the social support is considered one of the important ways of coping with trust. By Kamara Bakigalupe, Padilla, 2017. It is likely that lack of social support can make the individual more vulnerable to stress. The need for self care and compassion. People who are in high compassion that treat themselves with kindness, care, and understanding. When they experience stressful events or situation, self-compassion has three elements and those are kindness, a sense of common humanity, and mindfulness. Self-compassionate people accept that mistakes and failure are part of being human and common to all. They are more likely to be mindful or aware of their painful thoughts and feelings. Self compassion has shown reduce anxiety, stress exhaustions, and depressions by NEF 2012. It says that those self-compassionate people they tend to be more careful of what they want to tell about. They valued the other feelings of someone they're talking to. Stress. So stress has effect on health. For this reason, people must learn ways to manage stress with self-compassion. Stress management is the ability to control stress and develop the skills to prevent the harmful effects of stress. Particularly, students who are able to manage stress successfully are more likely to develop physical and emotional well being. They are also able to better in school. So, kita daw, as a students, it's hard to become a student, di ba? So, dali rata kapuyon, ma-stress, og di jud kalikayan hilabi nagloaded tags assignments, reporting, quizzes, and activities. I-appeal pa nato ang mag-procrastinate, so di jud na siya malikayan. Ang ma-stress. So, we as a students, we must have a self-compassionate so that ma-manage nato ato ang mga stress. And these are some suggestions to manage stress and practice self-compassionate. Inhale and exhale method. So when you are stressed, find a quiet place where you will not be disturbed. Sit with your back straight, close your eyes, and begin the process of calming yourself by paying attention to your breath. Inhale through the nose and exhale through the mouth. As you inhale, say to yourself, relax. As you exhale, imagine yourself releasing out all the tension. Do this exercise 3 times. Makes this breathing exercise regularly. It will help you relax. Another one is pray or meditate. Make it part of your daily life. It provides power and energy for living. So yeah, pray or meditate. Talk to God. Runs your day into Him. He's listening without judgment and answers your prayer too. So the third one is read spiritual materials such as Bible, self-help book, or magazine that will make you relax and guide you throughout your life. Even me, when I'm down, reading books, especially Bible, help me gain strength to strive more tungod sa mga word nga naa sa Bible. So another one is be mindful of your thoughts and feelings. Keep a diary or journal where you can write down and process your thoughts and feelings. Talk to people, share your feelings so that you can feel the magaan feels if you talk to someone you trusted. And that way, you can express what your thoughts and feelings. Another one is develop good habits. Eat the right kind of food. Drink lots of water. Sleep at least 8 hours a day. Exercise regularly and relax yourself. Go to the beach, watch a movie, have a haircut, and the massage. Eat your favorite food. So the last one is develop sense of humor, think positive, and find reason to smile and be happy.